Okay, just some more basics about building your object. Getting forms out of what you build. One of the toughest things is getting like organic shapes. So I'll try to show you a couple of things about that. But for the most part, most of the things that you're going to be able to build in SketchUp are going to end up being very sort of geometric. But some of the ways that you can adjust your object a little bit. For example, if I am working with this, I already showed you the idea of drawing on one side of a form and then using the push extrude tool to push away parts you don't want. I mean, you can really do a whole lot with that. Like on one side of this, you could really design, what you want this object to look like. But to take that a little bit further, and I'm going to hit escape there. I could push all of this away, but again, I don't want to try to build cushions on top of this, so that's why I want you to build your cushions separately. But let's say I did want to try to do some adjustments to this. Show you a different way of adjusting this. And again, it is good to save things as components, but I don't have to save this as a component just yet. But let's say I wanted to just adjust, let's say this part. That really extrudes up too high. I mean, it could be an interesting place to sit, if you sort of fit in it real nice, but maybe if you're really measuring somebody's leg length or something like that, it's either not long enough or too long. So if I wanted to adjust that with my selection tool, I could select just that single line. Be aware that in SketchUp you can not just move objects, but you can also adjust single lines. So with that single line selected, if I go to my move tool, and again, the better way I've found to move stuff, instead of just trying to grab on it and move it, it's better to use your axes, your X, Y, or Z, your red, green, or blue line. So let's say I want to move that up along the blue axis here. I'm going to put my move tool on that line, click down, hold down, and that's going to move that line directly up. So that's another way that you can use to adjust some of these shapes that you're working with. Also, we looked last time at using the scale tool. Let's say I wanted to scale the top of this to be thinner. To actually come in at an angle going that direction with that top surface, that top face selected. I could go to my what is this tool called? The scale tool. And also with most tools, you're going to have options of using your keyboard to do some variables. If you were to try to again do it without using a lock, it's going to get askew. So I'm going to hold down Control, and that's going to give me more of an even sort of move with that. So do think about that as you're working with these different forms like that. But let's go on to the pillows. And really, of course, the pillows ideally are going to be a little bit more round. So let me show you how I would probably go about. And again, as you guys are starting on this, it tests things out. Just make this a playground for experimenting, trying to build different sorts of forms. So if I was going to try to build a pillow, I like to carve stuff out of, imagining that I have a block of marble or something like that. Whoops, got something else selected. So what I would do is probably just draw myself some forms on the face of this. And I'm trying to draw something that's very oval-like. So I'm going to go to that point and go up, then do the same thing from that point to that point and go down. And then what I'm going to do is get rid of everything else that I don't need. First, with my eraser, get rid of the lines that I don't need. And if I wanted to put more forms into this, I could do that. But realize this about working on curvilinear forms. You can't draw on top of them. The way that I'm able to draw on top of these flat surfaces, I can't do that on top of these rounded surfaces once I make them. So let me go ahead and extrude this part away. And of course, right now, this object is floating in air, and that's the utility of making an object into a component, because that way you'll be able to grab it and move it. Right now, I can grab it and move it, but if I interact it or lay it over something else, I'm not going to be able to grab it again. So before I move this, I will actually turn it into a component. But if I was trying to make the edges of this a little bit more rounded, or give the illusion of being round, probably what I would do is take several of these and actually work with them together. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is take an overhead view of this object. And again, you know, if you don't see these tools, you're going to be able to find these tools on a PC in your toolbars. It's a little bit different on the Mac. You'll actually have to go to toolbars and then drag some of the tools that you want onto your your workspace. But I prefer to look at objects with parallel projection. That way it looks perfectly flat. It just makes more sense to me. So now I'm going to select this, make it a component. You could retitle it. Sometimes that's useful. But then to start combining this object together, I'm going to actually copy it and paste it in place. And let's move it a little bit. The other one. Now this other one I'm going to rotate. And I think I rotated that wrong. Rotation is hard on tops of curved surfaces, so I probably should have rotated that earlier. That still looks wrong, but just for the sake of moving on, I'm going to move on. But you're probably going to be able to get some different sort of shapes by combining multiple components, and then you can regroup those components once you've done that into one sort of object. So, and what I probably would do with this here is actually get the objects together first, then start to scale them. Just through use of a lot of different tools, or a few different tools, to really get the objects to sort of get a good combination of one another. And again, this is where it's really useful to use the axes to move stuff around, instead of just trying to directly combine something with something else. Also, you could try to make some just purely round elements to pull into here. Let's see. Let me move this some more. Go back to this. And these don't look comfortable so far, these pillows. And also for this project, if you guys want to add patterns into SketchUp, you can do that too once you start trying to put materials onto these. That's perfectly fine to do. I mean, there's lots of patterns inside of SketchUp, but it's pretty easy to browse for. If you find a JPEG or an image with a pattern or a texture that you like, it's easy enough to browse for something else that you might want to put into it. But let me just do one more thing to this. That's a pretty weird looking pillow. There it is. I think that's possibly I've seen a pillow like that. But again, once I get this where basically I want it, once you've got a combination of the different objects that you're working with, you can make a multi-component, and then but then if you ever get to a point where you want to work on a component, do something on it, just double click on it, and you can go into that component and actually make changes to the that object a little bit further. Let me see, one more thing I'll try to demonstrate is how to make a sphere. I'll probably have to YouTube it. If I'm not able to do this, you guys just YouTube how to make a sphere in SketchUp. But let me see if I can remember how to do it. You start off with a circle on the ground. Then I've got to draw, I think, a line that goes straight up. Then I've got to place another circle, but have the circle, yeah, wait, I gotta do this first. Because there is a way to make spheres in Sketchup. Let me see if I can remember how to do this. I've got to somehow get my circle to not be laying on the ground, but to be on the blue axis. Let me see. That's why it's blue. See if I can get it to go another direction as I'm trying to do this. Alt, Control, Shift, New. Yeah, I'm going to have to find it on, well, you guys look for it on YouTube. It's pretty easy, but I cannot remember how to do this. But there is a way to actually make spherical forms. But basically, once you get the this shape to a circle to stand up, you're able to use the Follow Me tool to get the sphere to come all the way around. And but if you want to use something like that also for your pillow-like forms, then you can do that too. And one more thing, again, the real use and utility of being able to look at this in this parallel perspective view is that's how you're going to be able to most easily take your elements and put your elements together. I haven't made this into a component yet, but ideally you would make that into a component first. But once you do all that, you know, it'll be pretty easy to move your elements around and, you know, place them however you might want to place them.